we have Sebastiaan. We have the same hair cutter, and we like the same clothes. Sebastiaan is a partner and my second partner in Gherzi, Germany, together with Yves Bloy. And Sebastiaan is very close to Portugal. I think, Sebastiaan, you've been doing business with Portugal since 10 years, 15
No,
years?
longer. My parents started this, so second generation, if you like. So, and now we know Portugal very well. I still do a lot of production in Portugal. We are, as I said, from the past, the agents of A. Sampaio. You might know them, circular knitter.
Yeah.
We used to have the agency for Arcotex in the family agency for the gas area for many years. Yeah, long-lasting relationship, and luckily it is still lasting today. Have good contacts also with Citeve and other organizations in Portugal.
Yeah. No, Portugal, it's still, and I think we will probably continue as we see more and more this strategic nearshoring coming over again. Not only for the pandemic, the commercial wars, etc., that I'm sure you know quite well firsthand, and regions like Portugal that are pretty stable in that sense. I think it will become again, relevant. Not that we have lost our relevance, but obviously in the 90s and early 2000s, as you know, 80% was, offshored somehow. So it's an interesting place to be in general, also because, and to my preference, it's the safest country in the world. If we exclude islands like Iceland and Norway, New Zealand maybe. So it's a great place to live. I've lived in many big cities in the world, sorry, this is just a personal side note, but when I became a father, it was the balance of life, for family, business, everything. Obviously, if you can travel, because if you don't travel, it's tougher. It's a great place to be. Great. Are you based in Switzerland or Germany?
We are based in Germany.
Okay.
So Sebastiaan is next to the Rhineland, the River Rhine, in the western part. And Eugenia and myself, we are based in Berlin and Chemnitz. Yeah.
And apologies on my lack of knowledge. I know Gherzi, but not in detail. Are you more focused on, as you were saying, Sebastiaan, the mediation of relations, so clients, suppliers, or are you more focused in the consultancy part, in the sense of, improvements of processes, both? What is the focus at the moment?
As I said, we had a long history in the textile industry. When I started to work in the industry, we were agents and connecting brands with suppliers and manufacturers in Portugal. As you mentioned yourself, there was a dip when everyone went to Asia, and people didn't appreciate anymore the Portuguese industry. But what a lot of people, especially in the German and the gas area, didn't realize is what Portugal did do in the meantime. So today I still have the family agents part is very small nowadays. So out of the history, we still do a bit of production in Portugal for a few selected clients. But my day job is most of the time consultancy, developing things on a global scale. I'm promoting Portugal since years. Unfortunately, a lot of companies just went for the margin and not for the quality. Also this pandemic did accelerate a lot of topics that we know since years in the industry. So for that reason, I do see a huge demand of companies now looking into how they can rethink their processes, streamline their workflow, their supply chain. So for that reason, I see a huge future upcoming for Portugal and a renaissance for the Portuguese industry. And for France, for the UK, Portugal is important since many years. For the German area, it was more Eastern Europe, Turkey, where they were focusing, but slowly they realized that Portugal is a very modern and innovative industry. That's what a bit leaking in the eastern part of Europe, and so that is a big advantage of Portugal, and therefore I see huge future upcoming, and I strongly believe in production in made in Europe.
Yeah. No, for the record, although obviously I'm Portuguese, my company has not one single Portuguese client. So as we develop technology, when I refer clients, I'm talking about brands and retailers. 99% are, outside of smaller countries, typically based in the US. If we talk about luxury fashion, more Italy and France. Now a bit more also Chinese and Asian, but I think we will get there, and it will be really interesting to promote and to keep the contact, because we are in a way indirectly consulting to a lot of brands that want to revolutionize their supply chain activities. And as I will probably briefly mention in a few minutes, it's not about reinventing the wheel. It's simply understanding your priorities in the value chain, and I think that the humanity has reached now a point after the pandemic, with all the global weather crisis, etc. I don't think that a lot of people are still pushing for margins. Obviously, everyone wants to be financially viable. That's obviously without a question. But we keep seeing more and more and more, C-level executives asking for a better balance of risk and reward. And my personal view as an industrial engineer that has spent years in the shop floor, I think that that disruption will come from the upstream supply chain. And once we promote flexibility and agility, I think that we will have much less risk, specifically in one topic, which is overproduction. We still produce probably 10 to 20%, pure waste in terms of things that get to the market that will never get sold at full price. That's for sure, and even with discounted prices. And I love innovation from other areas, R&D, like recycling, new fibers, less water consumption, less energy, but that's incremental innovation. If we can stop 5%, 7%, 10% of production that is not sold, you save everything. You save resources, you save water, you save energy, you save people's time, factories capacity, raw materials, etc. So this is my mission. And our company, fortunately, we are blessed because we can run for impact, not just financial margins. So when I wake up every day, my number one KPI is impact. What can I do more to impact brands, factories, etc. And I think we're getting to places, so it will be interesting to explore later on, not just for this conversation, but with you directly. I think it will be interesting.
Absolutely, fully agree. And next.
Gonçalo, just quickly, so Gherzi is maybe an old consultancy company from the old days in the textile industry. Mm-hmm. We as a German young team, we mainly believe on being not the consultant, but being the enabler with the company, with the client, with the partner. So we mainly focus on the textile industry, means from fiber to finished good to garment. Mm-hmm. And Sebastiaan, who is also working for Gherzi Germany, he is the guy for retail and everything what happens after the garment in the poly bag.
Important question here, Anton. Which hat I'm wearing during this conversation?
That's why I just wanted to carry on.
Okay.
But I just wanted to tell, textile industry is very close, so there's a lot of network. So the rule for Gherzi Germany is we work with people that are not just consultants, that are entrepreneurs. That's why Sebastiaan is also on the team Gherzi. But today he's with the head Color Digital, where he works with Color Digital, with digital, supply chain management, specification in the supply chain, which perfectly fits your side. So I'm also today wearing together with Georgina the Gherzi hat. Besides this, I'm also a textile entrepreneur. I still believe in this industry. That's why I have some productions in Germany in textile finishing, weaving, and knitting. Still, I believe in it, but probably the same issue like you have. I think European production, Portugal even better than Europeans, have or they have a lot of options in the future if they are fast, small lots, and exactly what you're pushing with your topic, where demand and demand and supply meets. So we are not producing anything for the bin or for the heating system of Stockholm,
Yeah.
and H&M is burning some stuff because they're not selling it.
Yeah.
And you all have the questions which were coming from the organization and people from India regarding the city conference by this Thursday. So we will record our meeting. Eugenia is taking care of it, and if there's a recording session, there will be a sign that we are recording as we do in the moment. So you see it in the left corner. We are recording. The city conference is organized as well with Gherzi India, and we as Gherzi Germany support them with ideas partners like Sebastiaan and you, Gonçalo, to give the audience in India, or which will be an international audience, good takeaways for the sessions. And this is also something we want to focus on, what we really can tell the people which will be in the audience, what is changing, what kind of business opportunities you have, how you have to adopt, and how you have to find new options.
Okay. And quick question: is this recording session supposed to be a chat positively, or am I, for instance, expected to show one example, like sharing some, images? What do you prefer?
I would love that you show something real live. We can make screen sharing and everything.
Okay.
Having Edwin not on the team now, so we have more time for us. And actually, we were already into the topic, and I already introduced you gentlemen. And actually, the important thing that is the PlatformE from Portugal is really focusing on the interesting part which is happening due to digitalization. It's always the big question. Where does supply and demand meet? So being most efficient in the whole supply chain and producing and using only this or that raw materials that you need really for the order of the customer. As well as, this is the point then from Sebastiaan, how to organize the supply chains even faster with digital ways, even by having an international platform or international supply chain, but not giving good credits and turnover to DHL and FedEx by sending out sample swatches, color swatches. This is changing directly. And to start this discussion already, I would love, you got your questions from Eugenia already, but I just want to have as an entree from both of you, starting with Sebastiaan, quick 3 minutes. What is the change you've been seeing in the textile industry, how you adopt with your system Color Digital, and what you want to give to the audience in India? And then the same from you, Gonçalo, and then we go to the question step by step.
Good. So do you first make a brief introduction, Anton, or?
I did the first brief introduction, but if you can also give 2 minutes to explain Color Digital from your side, so the organization you've been working for.
Yeah. Now, Color Digital is a German-based company focusing on a digital solution for exchanging color information, material information, so preferably digital workflow, enabling this. We are founded in 2015 out of the German Fashion Institute with a strong focus on color. If you talk about color, you need to take in consideration materials. So that was the next step. When you talk about material, you also have master data behind this material. So this is an environment that was created over several years. Today, we have a cloud-based SaaS solution with different solutions for the topic color, textures, 3D object sourcing, standardization of this content, but also of the master data behind and how you share this master data. So everything what you need for actually a life cycle of a product, everything on decision making can be digitized, and that's what we're doing. We closely work together with all existing tools in the market if it comes to 3D software, if it comes to ERP, PLM systems. So we want to be an enabler that is fully integrated. My role within Color Digital is the international sales. So spreading the news that we are existing and helping companies with their digital challenges that all companies face.
Very nice, Sebastiaan. Thank you very much. And also 2 more minutes, because you both have the same question. What are the 2 major or 3 major transformation trends you have been observed in the textile and fashion industry in recent times? 2 or 3.
So the whole COVID-19 pandemic is an accelerator for a lot of topics we already know in the industry for many years, but nobody really wanted to touch them. So companies are suddenly forced to rethink their processes, to streamline them, work on their productivity level, being quicker, demand-driven, and of course the whole topic of sustainability, use fewer resources. So this need of transformation suddenly opened a lot of doors that were closed until or before COVID for us. So ears also on C-level did open for the topic digitalization and what it actually means. And so our platform solution for enabling decision-making in the product's life cycle based on digital experience and physical measurements is suddenly a hot topic to a lot of CEOs. And in the past, it was something what they didn't want to move away or was not on their desk. So that's of course, for us, something that helps us in making this change within the industry that is needed, I think. Other thing we see is this whole topic of B2C coming up. A lot of our industry is driven from a wholesale approach, as we did for the last 100 years. Also having shows, trade shows, and in a B2C environment, a lot of this is not needed anymore. So we started 10 years ago to talk about omni-channel. A lot of companies went into e-commerce, but what we didn't change in the industry is our routes to market and the routes of development of product, production of a product, going to a trade show, having actually no real forecast, just making a pile of goods. And end of the story is that we overproduce, that we work inefficient, and that we actually misuse resources. So this is one major trend we see also caused by COVID, again, accelerator, to pinpoint the problem of non-demand driven production. So these are the 2 major things we experienced over the last year.
Thank you very much. perfect statement, especially roads to market. I think this is the question. Roads will change, so maybe you have to drive to you have to change your tires or your car, your navigation system, maybe your companions in the car. So Gonçalo, please, quick introduction, you and your platform, and then also we start with a general question: what kind of major trends do you see? Oh,
thank you so much.
Just quick, we have Edwin here. Thank you very much, Edwin. Just to jump into the topic, because the tight schedule, everyone is in a tight frame. We have Sebastiaan here from Color Digital from Germany. We have Gonçalo here from PlatformE from Portugal. We have Edwin here from the Textile Research Institute from Hong Kong. We have Eugenia here, which is the head admin assistant for Gherzi Germany, and myself. And Edwin, we are already in the topic with a quick introduction of each panelist, and then the general question: what kind of 2 or 3 mega trends you see which are approaching the industry? Sebastiaan already finished. We are already in the recording mood, so you can everything you can watch it later. But I would hopefully it's not unpolite, but I would continue with Gonçalo now.
Please. My apologies. Please.
Okay, so thank you so much for having me, first of all, and it's great to meet you all, and I hope you know, the thousands of people that will be attending this. So my name is Gonçalo Cruz. I'm the CEO and one of the founders of PlatformE, and PlatformE was born with this very important mission: how do we drastically reduce overproduction? It's pretty much the elephant in the room. As you all know, overproduction in the industry has been prolonging for decades and decades. And somehow, with incredible technology being developed for so many industries, it's strange why fashion and textiles and apparel industry in general have not adopted at large, at scale, sophisticated technologies and processes to minimize all of this. So PlatformE was born with that mission, and we do essentially 3 things. We connect digitized products to the point of commerce. So, and maybe then I can show you 1 or 2 examples, because this is evident. How do we utilize digital fashion to sell and not necessarily physical products? And the good news is that digital is more interesting now in terms of look and feel. It looks as good, if not even better, than a photo. The second one: how do we connect the point of sale with the supply chain, which has been very, very complex to do. As you know, 99.9% of factories do not belong to brands, and it's very hard to integrate satellite systems that do not talk to your systems. So we are doing this. And if we connect the point of sale and factories, we can do something that was never been done at scale, which is changing the business system from a negative working capital system, where essentially you produce first, you push it to the market, and then you hope that it gets sold, into a positive working capital system, selling first your beautiful fashion, both in brick and stores, physical commerce and online commerce, and producing it in real time, just in time, delivering this in the same week, couple of weeks. Depending on the price points, this could be really, really competitive. You will never hear me suggesting that this is viable for 100% of product categories. It is not. But the good news is that we have proven that we can do that with the most commercial items. And I would even be ambitious to the point of saying, I think that at least 1/3 of the industry can have an immediate impact, 1/3. So we're talking about billions of garments that potentially can be, optimized and drastically reduced. The third element is connecting into real-time logistics. As you know, if we don't have real-time activation of logistics and distribution, whatever we gain in the supply chain, I'm talking about manufacturers, we lose in the logistics. So it's very important to connect the three aspects: selling, producing, distributing. And this is what PlatformE does in a nutshell. And I'm more than happy to show some examples later on, so it's more evident.
Thank you very much, Gonçalo. 2 or 3 mega trends the industry is facing, and what kind of options are these for the industry players?
Yeah, I think it's cliche. Everyone is talking about it right now, but I think we are now getting practical. Climate change and sustainability has been an abstract topic, I would say, for the last 3 to 5 years, and now it's getting practical. So for the first time ever, I'm not sure if you've seen, big central banks like in the US, in Europe, etc., are now accepting debt bonds, sustainability debt bonds, that essentially make commitments for the first time ever objective. So for the first time now, brands, retailers, and suppliers are now saying, look, if we don't reduce the consumption of water, if we don't reduce the consumption and generation of CO2, if we don't augment the renewables energy, etc., then we get penalized. So the sustainability aspect, it's crucial now. And I think that also, again, because of COVID, we will be seeing more and more disruptive processes. Obviously, we are seeing a lot of innovation in retail and in recycling, of materials that have far less consumption of energy, water, etc. But to be completely honest, I would put my bets on redefinition of priorities for the supply chain. I think that for the first time in the last decades, we should starting not on squeezing margins and getting to Olympic minimums of costs on the supply chain. This has been the #1 KPI in the industry for many, many years. I would argue decades. Get me the lowest cost. Get me the lowest cost. And it is not viable. The #1 KPI now should be get me the lowest risk. Get me the lowest risk. So how can we balance risk and reward, making this financially viable for all the stakeholders, brands, suppliers, and obviously retailers? So no one wants to lose money, that's for sure, but no one wants to be generating waste. We need to reduce, the waste levels, and here I'm talking about finished goods essentially. So we need to reduce overproduction, and if we need to pay a premium to suppliers so the risk is less evident, this is now a major trend. I would focus on this #1.
Thank you very much, gentlemen, Sebastiaan and Gonçalo. That's a perfect going now to Edwin, to Hong Kong, who's head of the HKRITA Institute in Hong Kong. He's a textile institute, a service provider, a research institute. Edwin is, let's say, a black belt in supply chain. And as Sebastiaan and Gonçalo already touched this topic regarding digitalization, I think, Edwin, is the best way for you to introduce yourself. And please also then touch on the 2 topics. What are the 2 major trends with digitalization, new business model that will change our industry, that are already changing our industry? Edwin,
well,
thank you.
Yes, thank you. Again, my apologies for being late, especially with a German host. I think that is an unforgivable sin. The Research Institute for Textile and Apparel is a not-for-profit applied research center that is funded by the Innovation and Technology Fund, which is a pool of money, public money, that has been set aside to do research for the textile, apparel, and fashion industry. And for the last 8 or 9 years, we have been focusing on a couple of major key issues that our stakeholders have said are most important for them. And since we exist in the manufacturing economies, you will notice that some of these focus much more on the way things are produced. And so the 3 big themes that we have been doing research against are first and foremost sustainability, and that is something that we started like 8 years ago, before there was a real word for it. And our progress is that for until about September 2019, our focus has been on things like recycling, and so chemical, biological, and mechanical recycling, improving the methodologies behind it. But since the end of 19, we have been shifting our focus to what we call the shifting from doing less bad things to focusing on more good things. So carbon neutrality, looking at new ways of new models of business, so that we actually are not only a non-contributor to the sustainability issues, environmental, social, and what have you, but we are also creating new products and businesses that are positive, so carbon negative types of products. The other two domains that we are very active in is Industry 4.0, so automation and intelligence in manufacturing, so new systems and new tools, hardware and software, to achieve that. And then the third domain, which we sort of lumped everything else in, and for lack of a better term, we call it social good. So the recognition that we are all living longer and society is changing, and we are all staying active a lot longer. So how do we have products and materials that support these new types of lifestyle? So elderly care, self-cleaning, self-sterilizing materials, high performance materials, and materials that people find useful in a new way they live. And so for 2020, obviously that major focus was on antiviral, antibacterial materials, and also effective barriers and filtration systems, and for PPEs and face masks and things like that. So that's a little bit about what we do and what we spend time on. The way I look at the digital supply chain, if you will, and digitization, is that there are essentially three supply chains, right? There is a physical supply chain, there is a financial supply chain, and there is a digital supply chain. The physical supply chain, I think you all have touched on it already. The physical supply chain is deflationary. The price of clothing have been going down year on year, season on season for the last 20 years. No buyer would pay more for the same product that they paid for last season than they would pay next season. So it's deflationary, and it's because some of the reasons that already have been touched upon, because of there's oversupply, chasing a consumption. There are always new third world countries that can produce it for cheaper, and so you see this deflationary issue in that physical supply chain. The financial supply chain is basically free, because effective interest rate is zero. So that's why buyers expect the financial risk and the financial costs to be borne by their manufacturers. And so basically you can't generate you can't make money in the financial supply chain, but in effect today, manufacturers are financing the inventory of their customers, because payment terms are 30 days, 60 days, 90 days after shipment. So they are already operating in that financial supply chain, but not making any money with it. The data supply chain, and again, that's a point that has already been pointed out, is the most profitable, and is the I would say it is where all the opportunities lie. And a way to look at it is that if you look at the market caps of the largest companies in the world 10 years ago, it would be companies like ExxonMobil, Citicorp, and institutions like that. Today, if you look at the largest companies in the world, they are all companies that deal in the data supply chain. So it's Apple, it's Microsoft, and it's Google, and companies like that. So the data supply chain is where all the opportunities are to get more accuracy, to produce to demand rather than produce in the hopes of something will happen to the product. And it actually, by working and spending time in that supply chain, I think there's lots of opportunities to solve a lot of the challenges, opportunities that exist in our supply chains today, which is oversupply, wrong supply, and mispricing of goods and services. I'll stop here, and I don't know if that answered your question, but.
Thank you very much, gentlemen. I think already we have a quite fruitful discussion and a couple of takeaways for the audience, especially Edwin, the differentiation between physical, financial, digital supply chain. This is something very important for a textile engineer to understand. There is not just the physical supply chain of fiber, yarn, fabric, garment. There's also some financing, this is clear, but there's a digital one that can be a business model on its own. This is very, very good. Sebastiaan, getting back to you, if you don't mind. First question for you in our panel is, highlight short in a couple of sentences the USP of Color Digital for, as Edwin said, the digital supply chain, and as well focusing, Gonçalo, where supply and demand meet.
Yep. Okay. So I think the unique selling point of Color Digital is firstly that it's a cloud-based SaaS product, so software as a service. So we are scalable, and there is no limitation at scaling. The cloud we provide to brands or to manufacturers, all these clouds can connect. So we have a platform on which you can exchange color standards, where you can do entire digital lab dipping, you can create digital fabrics, you can exchange digital fabric, and all information needed to reprocess the product. So we hear a lot about digital development, 3D design, but if I cannot use that what I created in a digital form in our analog supply chain, because as you just mentioned, Anton, we have fiber involved, we have a spinner involved, we have yarns, we have fabrics, actually products. So we create two different universes. One universe is the digital, and we all want to touch it because we believe there is the future, and as Edwin said, there we can make money, but still we make analog products. Of course, our first approaches of digital fashion, and we don't need to wear it anymore, but that's future talks and a niche market. Main market is still that people want to dress up, people want to wear clothing, need to wear clothing to protect ourselves against the environment. So for that reason, it's very important that everything we create digital, we need to transform and to be able to use in the analog supply chain we still face. And of course, we already developing the bridges to the industry 4.0, to robotization, to lot 1, but also to do this, to go to industry 4.0, you need to have this transformation from generating digital information, finding a standard that you can communicate this equally, and everyone, it doesn't matter if I'm based in Hong Kong, if I'm in Germany, when we look onto the screen, we look at the color, we look at the fabric, we work in a calibrated environment so that everyone is seeing exactly the same, and that you know that if you make a digital decision, this will affect your digital twin, the twin, so the analog twin, in the same way as you see it on the screen. That's very important, and I think this is also the uniqueness. I'm a designer, that's my background in the menswear industry. When I first bumped into Color Digital, they told me we do lab dipping digital, not anymore based on subjective, but on measurements. For me, I couldn't imagine that this was possible. This is more than 8 years ago. In the meantime, they did prove me that they can do it. And we did prove it also to the industry that we can do this. But this is also something in our industry. What is a problem? We come out of an industry with a very, very long heritage. And we did things for more than 200 years in the same way, in the same rhythm. And my question to the audience, why we sending lab dips around the globe every day still with hundreds of UPS envelopes? We all know that the lab dipping is a very cost, time, resource intensive way of working, and we can do it already digital. So there is no need anymore to send lab dips around the world. And we all talk about saving, speeding up processes. This is the first and easiest part before we jump onto digital fabric, digital material development, and. But this is the tools we offer, and I think that's quite unique on itself. So that's a bit to our USP. I think most important, the scalability and the connecting between everyone involved in the entire product life cycle.
Sebastiaan, thank you very much. Gonçalo, the fast fashion industry was and still is a multi-million-dollar business. Made people rich, gave to Bangladesh, to China, a lot of money over the years to change from fourth, third world country to be in second, even some of them in some areas first. How would look like the business models or the companies of the future that will adopt this industry with your systems and your ideas? How will they look like?
Yeah, so I loved and I took great notes on Edwin's words on the 3 types of supply chain. And I think that the financial and data one will be key. So we need to understand, and when I say we, it's the humanity, it's not just us, that sooner or later, having lower prices over and over again will get us in general to a dead end. And no one is against of growing economies and growing industries. And by the way, improving the systems, it's not contrary to growth. We need to establish ourselves standards, principles of growing with viable systems and sustainable and more socially balanced models. One of the most relevant ones is the risk and reward of a supply chain that is based on the finished good versus components. Let me give this very, very brief example. If a specific brand wants to have 100,000 products, what would be the risk of committing to having all the components in terms of raw materials in-house, so the factories can start operating and producing whenever they are able to, and launching to the market not 100,000 pieces at once, but launching 10,000 pieces, so breaking in bulks of 10 to the market? What would be the pros and cons in terms of logistics, in terms of high prices versus low risk, etc. And this balance needs to be made on a case by case in all the situations. And I can give you the answer. The risk is reduced to from 4 to 1, sometimes from 5 to 1. If you actually commit and if you redistribute risk with your supply chain, and if brands assume the responsibility of paying raw materials and factory capacity before having the finished goods, I can tell you that we will end up in a much better balance. And this will happen either we like it or not. The groups that are still forcing their supply chain to go to minimum lows lower and lower and lower, sooner or later, they will lose not only their supplier, but also their clients. And this is not just out of social pressure, it's actually economical pressure. And again, the level of sell-throughs that we know that historically have gone lower and lower, the level of margins that historically have gone lower and lower needs to be rethought. So this is not just, you know, talking about environmental sustainability, it's talking about financial sustainability. And my point is, 10 years ago or 20 years ago, it was impossible to connect factories to stores, to brand headquarters. Nowadays, because of internet penetration, the speed of technology, digital tools, etc., we don't do this if we don't want to do this. But I can tell you that we have the toolkit, the humanity has the toolkit to make this work at scale. We have done this in many different cases with high-end designer brands, luxury, and also volume players, but with specific, you know, for specific niches. What we need to do now is at scale, proving that we have better systems. And the most important thing of all, it is actually okay to pay more for your units. The unit economics can go higher in terms of cost of production if you actually lower the wastes that you are generating. Again, the finished goods that you don't sell at full price or you don't sell at all. So if and once we do this balance, how much can I go in you know, increasing the cost of production? And what is the best balance of cost of production and sell-throughs? And I can tell you that socially, we will have actually be able to pay more to factories. We will be able to actually, to be quite honest, give more value to social workers, to everyone that is forms part of the supply chain. And in the end, brands will be happier because their margins will be preserved. So no one is talking about reducing margins. On contrary, we're talking about augmenting margins. So I think that this is actually now a matter of decision making, not how to do it, and it's when to do it. We want to start now. It's a matter of decision making, and it's fine to start small. It's fine to start with pilots. It's smart actually to start with baby steps, but preserving your design in terms of business in the old school, where you give the mandate to your senior directors. The number one mandate is find me the lowest price region, find me the lowest price supplier. That will not work any longer. That's a valid question, but the second and probably more important question is, get me the lowest risk. I will keep repeating this over and over again. We have reached a maturity as you know, a society that should actually bring us to the right KPIs, not to the wrong KPIs, which is the lowest cost ever. And again, not wanting to repeat myself, technology and the toolkit is here. It is viable, it is possible. It's just a matter of deciding.
Thank you very much, Gonçalo. I like very much that you have the whole picture. You talk as for human mankind and how to change this whole system. And by having Sebastiaan before, which giving you the data or the communication tools into a supply chain, you can, let's say, there's a possibility that there will be a mind change in our industry, buying not the cheapest lot size, but buying component and capacities, as you said. And for example, the same we see at Gherzi already with our technical textile customers. For example, in the automotive industry, if you buy an automotive ceiling, the OEM has all the information on the supply chain with a cost breakdown to the fiber, to the point. And everyone can live in the supply chain, even if automotive business is hard. But still, you have a margin and you have completely cost control. And this is also what Sebastiaan saying, you have a cost reduction by transparency in the supply chain as a standardized communication, but you have also the possibility to be much more efficient, because we have to say, and that's maybe going to Edwin, that our supply chain, even if this supply chain is very old in textile industry and has going global over the last 25, 30 years with an enormous speed, it's very inefficient, especially if you check on the demand and the supply. So too many middlemen and everything. And so the question to Edwin, what do you see as an expert with your clients or with your partners? How is a change that Sebastiaan and Gonçalo were explaining? Is this even possible for all textile industries? Or is this just be possible for startups, new way of business models?
Yeah,
it's a very general question, sorry.
Yeah. I think this is I think this is certainly amongst us, and I'm sure in people in attendance, in alignment and agreement with everything that's been said so far. The problem is that this is like all of us mice talking together and say, it's a really good idea to put a bell on the cats. But the question is, how do you do it, right? I mean, that's the challenge. And I think first of all, a couple of brutal realities, right? One, it is very hard for-profit companies to act out of the goodness of their heart. We have to build solid business models that make sense. And so we have to really look at what is a viable alternative. And I think secondly, it's the challenge is not strategic, the challenge is tactic. Because I think there is general agreement that the direction that we want to head is this way. It's more sustainable, more responsible, and that we would do a better job with the environment and for compliance and for all the other issues. The problem is that there is a group in the middle, the people who execute, who their reward system hasn't changed. They are still rewarded for the wrong things, right? So they will continue to behave the way they have been behaving because that is how they're being rewarded. I think the other thing that we have to think about, and this is something you said already earlier, that we are a very traditional business, and we have this wrong view of our business, and fundamentally. The challenge for us is to stop thinking of our industry as an art and begin to think of our industry as a science. And this is where data scientists and engineers and supply chain people come in and begin to reshape the way we are looking at business. And fundamentally today we have a group that, we're training people, our students with the wrong skill set, right? We're still trying to figure out who the next Coco Chanel is. Whereas what we're really looking for are people who can engineer this mess a little bit better. And then secondly, we have to, so we have to educate people better, and then secondly, I think we have to relook at compensation, and thirdly, and this is the hard part, the first recognition and the tough recognition here is that the way we look at demand is wrong, and the reason why I say that is if you look at how buyers make purchasing decisions today. It is all based on regression analysis. What am I going to buy next season? Well, first I look at what sold last season, and then I make this regression analysis, and then I do demand forecasting based on it. The problem is that model is more and more inaccurate to the point today that we might as well do it on a random basis because it's about the same level of accuracy as random. This is by the end, you can look at it by the rate of increase in the end of season off-price selling that we have to do. Fundamentally, what is wrong? Why is that phenomenon there? Well, one is of course there are all these the ways trends appear has fundamentally changed. We still imagine our business to be a very much a top-down driven business. And then this was what it was once upon a time. Coco Chanel determined what is beautiful, and she designed it, and people bought it because she was the opinion leader for the industry. Today, our marketplace is bottom up. It's not top down. And the bottom up is that there are all these social, young people get all their information from their social network. And all the social network has this very, they determine what the trends and what the fads are. And yet we're not paying attention to those at all. So first of all, there needs to be a system change that looks for clues in terms of demand, not from regression, but from looking at the future, looking what people are talking about and figuring out where the opinions are going, and making products that are in harmony with the way people are going and thinking, with the lifestyles changes that are going on. I think I'll finally say one thing about the huge fallacy of our system. Of the way we do business, and the huge fallacy is this: nobody would pay for a 10-year-old cell phone because it's obsolete technology. And today, when we go buy a T-shirt, it's the same T-shirt that was made 10 years ago. We have not paid attention to how our consumers have changed, the lifestyle needs that they have, and what the expectations are from the apparels that they wear. This is the heaviest, most expensive, dumb system we carry around every day with us. I mean, all of the systems that we use are multifunction, multi-purpose. This informs me. This keeps me out of danger. This keeps me connected with the world. This takes care of me. I have to take care of this. When it gets dirty, I have to clean it. When it gets warm, I have to take it off. It's a passive system. Then why would we expect our consumers to pay more for the same thing next season after season when the rest of our life has progressed? So I think we are not only traditional, but we are obsolete, and we just haven't dealt with that. And we have to figure out a new purpose and a new reason for consumers to buy. So it's all in our control, and we just haven't done a good job of it. I'll stop there.
Edwin, thank you very much. I like the comparison shirt and iPhone or cell phone. This is, we always have to look out of our industry, how this industry changed, how they changed the approach to the customer and everything. And sorry, as a German, I have to watch the time. Still, I want you to one round. Please comment each other, but Eugenia and I have to be very sharp. Everyone gets 3 more minutes. And the takeaway for the audience also must be, because from a Gherzi survey, we see a lot of new labels coming up, new brands being developed by Kickstarter, being funded, whatever, Gymshark, Daxmayan, whatever you name them. And so all of you professionals, please give 2 or 3 advice to a young startupper in Bangladesh, in India, in Europe, what he should do to, as you said, to have the new purpose, to have a new rewarding system, which is a very important start, because when Gonçalo and Edwin, you talked about the rewarding system, how the system works in our industry, this is a fundamentally change in the value proposition of being a textile company. So the value proposition is not the USP. So Sebastiaan, please go ahead. What are your advices for a young woman in Delhi wanting to start up a textile business, a fashion business?
Thanks, Edwin. I admire really most of the things you're saying because it's coming from the heart, and you know, we all love this industry, but it really needs to change. And I think the change is there, especially in these SMEs, in these startups. They have not the burden and the ballast of these huge organizations behind them, and they have the opportunity to make this change. I think important for them is to look for your niche market, your target group, understand your target group, and start approaching your target group maybe with a digital twin. Bypass trade shows, agents, wholesalers, think demand driven. So listen to your niche, get feedback from your consumers, use the possibility of B2C, and listening to your end consumers will enable you to manufacture garments that do meet their expectations and their needs, because Gonçalo and Edwin did state the same. We are in this industry manufacturing goods, then need to invest on marketing and advertisement to tell the end consumer that they want to have this good, even if they don't want to have it. And if they don't want to have it, we dump it, or it's going to sell and it's ruining the margin. So I think we should much more think demand driven and listen to our audience, to our end consumers, and manufacture goods that address their needs.
Yeah, on my end, I would probably suggest 2 or 3 things. First, probably the most relevant of all, find a partner within the supply chain, manufacturing area. And the word is partner. You shouldn't see this person, this institution, as a dependent vendor, someone that is actually, that has the lower negotiation power. See definitely the chain as partners with a lot of value that you want to nurture, that you want to care, and it should be definitely a win-win situation. If you don't find a flexible partner, a solid supply chain partner, sooner or later you will fight for price, and once you see yourself fighting for price, you're in a dangerous place. This is in the upstream part. In the front end, in the commerce part, I would reiterate what we've been saying here. Do not do physical trade shows and physical samples. Do everything, if you can, digitally. And when I say digitally is, for instance, do beautiful collections in 3D that should be photorealistic. It looks like photos. To measure the interests, to touch the waters. Let's see if my consumers like the collection or not. And if you start doing it digitally, and the great news is that you can do beautiful collections with a fraction of the physical price. Nowadays, the technology has been democratized to a point where to do a beautiful shirt in 3D, you will spend maybe $20, $15, which is lower than a physical shirt. And for sure lower than a physical shirt with a physical photo shoot, with a physical model, with physical hairdressers, makeup artists, whatnot. So it's much lower. It is a fraction of price to do a digital lookbook, a digital editorial catalog. And with that, you can approach your market. And if you connect the 2 ends, digital catalogs and connection to the market, and partners in the supply chain, not dependent vendors, partners, then you should be in a good place to start your business.
Yeah, I think you guys made all the points that I was thinking about. I think a couple of thoughts. First of all, I think we need to on the manufacturer end of the supply chain, they need to move into a service business. So Sebastiaan talked about SaaS. I think we also need to look at what is the service that you provide, which could be not only the manufacturing of the goods, but the movement of the goods, the warehousing, the distribution, getting goods to the customers, getting the right goods to the customers at the right time, and providing a service that gives the particular market supply chain that you're in the agility, the accuracy, and the sustainability to be a competitive part of the business. And this idea, last time, Anton, we talked about, is that we have to think about our entire ecosystem, right? We need to think about what roles each of the players in our end-to-end supply chain play, and how we can keep everybody healthy. I would also say that the only reason why we should be in business is if we have some sort of a world-class niche that we're in, or we are very, very big. Scale is still important. But if we aren't the world's biggest, then what is it that we are world-class at? What is the value proposition that we bring to the marketplace that is useful and valuable to the consumer? I think finally, the question we continually have to ask ourselves, which regardless of where we are in the supply chain, is that what role are we playing? What role do we find ourselves playing? And in my mind, there's only 3 roles that we can play in any supply chain. And you are either a victim, in which you're the guy who is being beat down at every negotiation. You're a bystander, in which you have no skin in the game, and you are actually been eliminated, or you are a participant. And a participant is somebody who actually is in there, really driving changes and creating new services and goods and doing useful things. And the only role, the only sustainable role for anybody in the supply chain is to be an active participant, and to really change and evolve these supply chains with the times.
Gentlemen, thank you very much. This is a really inspiring panel. I like this victim, bystander, or participant. You talked about also last time, Edwin, about the ecosystem, about partners. Like Gonçalo said, it's a win-win situation. It's a partnership on the supply chain. It's something else than in the coming years. Oh, Romania is too expensive. We go to Turkey. Oh, Turkey is too expensive. We go to India, Bangladesh. Then we go to Africa, and now we come back. So it's these systems probably are not working anymore. And as you say, Gonçalo and Sebastiaan, it's a question about security in the supply chain, security on pricing, on quality, on logistics, which we saw especially in Europe in the COVID situation, that some supply chains were cut off. And all this together, which we covered now in 37 minutes, is, I think, for young startups or entrepreneurs or business leader, it's a way to think of how to change to be whether victim or bystander or a participant. And as Edwin said, choose, and Gonçalo, choose your partners well. And as Sebastiaan said, you must speak the same language with your partners. So that's why you need a digital supply chain, and everyone understands, because I already have the problem when I want to sell something to America, when I have to calculate from centimeters to inches or something. But this is just a side note. You have to speak the same language to be real partners and have, as you said, a common goal to change and participate in changing the world. Gentlemen, we have to watch on time. I think, Eugenia, we already a bit late, but it was very fruitful and a lot of content. Thank you very much from Gherzi side.